Hey guys, how you going? Hopefully you're having a great day. We've got some clear skies, so we can actually look at some cool stuff tonight. And I'm not on my own tonight. I've got John, who's helping me with the dome, because we're in our the octagonal dome tonight using our Meade 14 LX200. Say hello, John.
Hi everyone.
And I've got Kyle here as well. He's the disembodied voice that you can hear tonight. Now, John in the chat did actually say the weather's looking good, so we have berated him for hopefully not jinxing the night. But if you want to put your own personal comments to John tonight, or about possibly jinxing tonight, there is the Discord channel link invitation down in the bottom in the description for this video, and it's also got our social media links, so you can join us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram as well, so you can see all the cool stuff we're doing and also what's happening in astronomy, because while we're starting to be able to do stuff now with lockdown laws being reduced, everything's going full ball in the galaxy and around in the universe today. So tonight we're going to be looking at a James Bond cluster called the M66, called the GoldenEye cluster. GoldenEye was one of the Bond movies in the 90s, and then we're going to be looking at a place which is actually suffering more than what we are at the moment. There is a supernova in the galaxy M61, and so we're going to look at that tonight. And we're also going to look at another deep faint object called the Bug Nebula as well. And if we've got time, we'll also go and revisit Centaurus A galaxy, which is a fantastic galaxy. So let's get started. Before we do, if you want to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and also click the notification bell so you can get notifications when we go live. You can always watch these. We do these every Saturday while we are locked down as well. So, Kyle, you want to start off and tell them what we're going to be watching first while I take the very first photo, because I've got it framed, and now we're going to take a nice photo of it in the imaging.
All right. So, to start off with, M67, also known as the GoldenEye cluster, like Matt said, it's also known as the King Cobra cluster. So that's from various Messier object names.
It's a shame it wasn't called Cobra Kai.
But, I did mention it was an open cluster, and that's essentially the next stage of evolution after a nebula. So bright nebula are stellar nurseries, that's where stars are born, and with open clusters, they're like stars that have essentially grown up, left home, and found jobs.
Yeah.
So the actual cluster itself was discovered by Johann Gottfried Kohler, in 1779, and his telescope couldn't actually make out individual stars. It was just a big fuzzy blob. And it goes to show how far telescope technology has advanced since the 1700s. So we can make out a couple hundred stars with modern telescopes.
So we got it up here now. So you can actually see some coloration here. You've got some blue stars and you've got some white stars as well. So it's quite relatively quite close to us in that it's between 2,600, 2,900 light years away from us, and it's also about 20 light years across as well. So it's a decent sized nebula as well, and it's a good binocular object to see.
I think with a good pair of like 50 mil binoculars, you can see it quite easily, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's quite an old cluster as well in the fact that it's around 3.2 to about 5 billion years old. So it's not the oldest that we've seen, but there aren't too fewer open clusters that get older than this. So these guys literally haven't left the parent's nest. So yeah. So normally with open clusters, they're around that kindergarten, primary school type age for stars as well. So it's one of the most studied open clusters that we have in the galaxy, and it's important to see because you can actually see it's an important laboratory, as they say, because it's well populated. There's not a lot of dust because most of the dust has been used to make all the stars that you can see there, and then also uh, any dust that's been left over has been blown away from solar winds that from those stars, and particularly the big stars as well. So, and the good thing is that all the stars are relatively at the same distance and age. So, it does, it's pretty cool thing to have a look and see how our sun would have developed in its early age.
Yeah, I think it's also it's well, one theory is that this particular cluster was actually the parent cluster of our own sun. Potentially a few billion years ago, maybe a supernova in the cluster kicked our sun out of its own orbit inside it.
Yeah,
So, unfortunately, I think like newer simulations have concluded that it's rather unlikely, if I remember correctly.
yeah. We're looking at our siblings at long last. But
I think
it's got some interesting, types of stars there. Like normally they're all the same age, but you've got about 30 blue stragglers, which are stars, main sequence stars that have, possibly gobbled up another star, and so they're a lot hotter than what the stars around them are as well. So.
hmm,
There's binary stars. They've found binary stars in here as well, and there's about 100 of those stars that are very similar to the sun as well. So, and you've got a few red giants in there as well. So
yeah,
it's
those would be the ones a bit older, a bit more massive than our own sun.
yeah. And guys, if you've got questions, please put them in the chat, and we'll answer them as well. So we've
Mm.
also got John here. So if you've got any really hard mathematics questions, ask them, and yeah,
If you got any questions on stellar evolution, feel free to pipe up in the Discord chat as well. I
yeah,
can answer those.
and yeah, and also we've got about 150 white dwarfs in there as well. So we have seen some stars in this cluster that have expired and reached the end of their lives and have become white dwarfs as well. So the total count of this, I think they're now thinking is about 500 stars as well. So, but like a lot of these open clusters, you can actually see that there's some mass segregation as well. So the bigger stars that form in the outer edge of this cluster actually move into the center, and the smaller ones get kicked out into the suburbs as well. So it's always interesting. That's why you usually find that the center of the clusters are quite bright, and you get the bright stars there as well. So Charles Messier actually rediscovered M66 and was able to resolve it, and he put it in his catalogue in 1780. So that's about that's 6 years. I think that's no, so that's 10 years. Was it 10 or 9 years after Cook sails the east coast of Australia, and I think that's it's 8 years before Arthur Phillips lands in Sydney, what becomes Sydney. So yeah. And it was also observed by Caroline Herschel, and as many times as well by William Herschel. So we actually looked at last week, and we saw Caroline's cluster, which is named after her. So John, William, and Caroline, plus William's son John, they're all very instrumental in looking at stuff that's, Caroline was a big comet person. William found Uranus, and John was a polymath and also did a number of cataloguing of stars, and a lot of their catalogues ended up being put together when they did the used as the basis of the NGC catalogue, the New General Catalogue as well. All right, so we're going to go to M61. So this is the place that basically is having a worse time than us. Now, you might hear the dome rotate. This thing is built quite solid. I think it would probably survive a nuclear explosion. If you've ever come up to the to do one of our night sky tours, you'll probably know which dome we're in tonight. So I'll go and put in the catalogue number. Okay. So we're putting in M Messier. So M just stands for Messier, and you'll start to hear the telescope well.
So you won't be able to see M61 with the naked eye, but it is in our northern skies at the moment. So it's in between the constellations Leo and Virgo, if you know your constellations. So it's in that kind of empty space in between them, and we're looking out of our galaxy when we're looking at it. So in terms of vital statistics, well, it's about 52.5 million light years away from us, so pretty far. It's about 100,000 light years across, so that's actually very similar to our own Milky Way galaxy. And it's around 13.2 billion years old. So, I think around the same age as our own galaxy as well.
We can just see it here in the framing. So we'll so we'll just zoom in a little bit. So I'll just go back to live view, and hopefully we can see a star that we can use to make sure that we're going in the right direction.
We've got a comment in Discord. Could you maximize the image for some of the time so that our viewers can see it a bit better, Matt?
Yep, will do. Yep, that's Jeff. Hey, Jeff. Jeff is one of the committee members of the POVG and a fountain of knowledge. So if you do become a volunteer at the Perth Observatory, Jeff will be the one that will be your Obi-Wan Kenobi. But with better results, actually. We'll say Yoda, because apart from Luke Skywalker, he didn't do a good job with Anakin. He must have gone the wrong way. Okay, let's have a look. Just go back. Go to...
Alright. Do I get to have it on?
Yep.
Nice. Alright. So while
So we're just still getting it in view.
Oops, sorry about that.
So this is the problem with the very faint objects. There it is. Okay. We'll do a 1 second exposure just to.
All right. While Matt's getting the best picture possible, I'll talk a little bit more about M61. So
we will have to do something like a probably about a 40-second exposure to really get it out. But even here, you can just see the.
Is it in frame?
So look, I think that was just doing another 2-second one.
Uh, so it's actually, interestingly, one of the most active starburst galaxies that we've seen. Since 1926, we've actually observed 8 supernovas coming from this galaxy alone. So that's well above average. And when we actually see it, you'll see a very bright dot. We should see 4 very bright dots, and one of those is new. So I'll be taking guesses as to which one it is. You can chat if you want to hazard a guess. But supernovae are amazingly energetic events. So to think about it this way, the light there has been traveling for 52.5 million years. It's traveled all that way across space, and it's still just as bright as some of the foreground stars. So stars in our galaxy, this dying star is producing enough energy to be as bright as stars inside our own galaxy, 52 million light years away, which is just a mind-blowing amount of energy generated. So
so we've got the countdown here. Yep. So we're just taking an image of it now. So because that light is so faint, it's so weak, we have to do long exposures, and especially with galaxies this far away. So this is part of the Virgo supercluster. So this is the actual supercluster that's part that our local group of galaxies is a part of. So there's about 1,300 galaxies just in this supercluster as well. Meta. Okay, so it should be downloading soon, and hopefully, it's not in view again. All right, I have to go swing. All right, come on. That's a bit annoying.
Doing searching again, Matt?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to search it.
All right. Well, so the latest supernova. Let me just look up when it actually happened. Well,
because it's a Type 1a. It's a Type 1a one, so we can actually use these Type 1a supernovas to find how as a distance measurement, because we can use them as Roman candles or standard candles, because the explosion's always the same brightness. So there it is. I think what I'll do is even though it's not in the center, I'll just fire it off now. But so what's happened here is that there's been a white dwarf star. So we've had 2 stars orbiting around each other, and one has got really old and shed its outer layers out and then become a white dwarf. So this is essentially what will happen to our sun. And then what's happened is that because the 2 stars are orbiting, that white dwarf has a lot more gravity and starts pulling the material off the companion star. And white dwarfs can only get to a certain level before they, which is the mass is called the Chandrasekhar limit. So it's 1.44 times the mass of our sun. And once that happens, they explode. And because the brightness of that explosion is always the same, if it's bright, you can then, once we have a look at these in distant galaxies, because they outshine their own galaxies for a couple of weeks, we can then work out how far away it is by how dim or how bright it is. So this one happened. Okay, should be coming up soon. Come on, hey, there it is. So we've got the super. So we've got M. There it is, right there. So all these other stars here. And you can notice that there's a little bit of streakiness here. That's because there's a little bit of wind blew. But this one here, this is a star in our galaxy. But this one right here, that's the supernova. So that there is having a worse time than us. So I think it's about 52 million light years away from us. So that happened.
Yep.
That happened about something like 14 million years after the dinosaurs died. So that's pretty awesome, isn't it? That that we're able to we always want to be able to look back in time and be able to see what happened back in back in the day. But we're seeing essentially something right there. I'll zoom it in as well so we can so people can see right there. So that there is that street. Oh boy, and it's a barred spiral galaxy as well. So you can see just the faint. I'll try and reduce. Actually, probably do a better job. I'll fire another one off just because we can still show this one, and I'll just do another.
So it's our own Milky Way galaxy is also a barred spiral galaxy. So M61 is almost like a twin to us. It's very similar in size and age, and even the structure of the galaxy itself.
Yeah, we have it's not one of those ones where you just got two arms coming off, because our one doesn't have. It has a couple. It does actually have a couple of arms plus. So you've got the main one, which is the Perseus, and then the Sagittarius, and then you've got spurs coming off those ones as well. Just have a look. Just doing this. Okay. I'm guessing we're getting some light pollution from the screens. That's why it's not so great. But I was taking photos
awfully close.
I was taking photos of this last night, and I'm getting all these wonderful images of it. And then but I've got my laptop screen turned down, and so this one should be a little bit better. And we're dealing with some wispy clouds. So again, thank you, John, for those comments. But to be fair to him, no, the wispy clouds were here already. So, but the funny thing was when they discovered this, when Charles Messier discovered this nebula, he'd actually thought it was a comet, and then 6 days later he came back and goes, "Oh, it's another, it's another comet or a galaxy, so nebulous object." So that's when he recorded it. So this one was a little bit earlier. So this was May 5th, 1779 was when he did it. So they think this galaxy is about 13.22 billion years. As Carl Sagan would say, 13.22 billion years. But it's one of the largest galaxies in the Virgo cluster, and it belongs to a small subgroup known as the S clouds. So we should be getting some. Yep, it's coming through now. Ooh, yeah. So you can see a little bit. It's got there hasn't been wind affected this one, but you can. So there's the bar, and you can see the arms coming off. So what I can do is I'll just go in and I'll put a photo preview of what I took last night. So you can notice. Let's see if I can add an actual window. Yep, there. And bring it underneath everything so it doesn't. Okay, so I'll transition, and you should actually. So this is what I took last night. So we'll zoom in, and you'll be able to see. There's the supernova right there, and you can actually see the arms. So this is unprocessed JPEG. So I took the dark frames and flat frames after this, and I'll process them later. So they look a little bit better. But yeah, so you can see the arms coming off here, and there's another one coming off here as well. So it's a decent sized galaxy, and that's a nice Virgo's a nice area, and you can actually see some other galaxies around here. So you got another galaxy here. You got a galaxy here as well. So it's quite a lot of galaxies in this part of Virgo. So that's why it's called the Virgo supercluster as well. So it's also we said it's a starburst, didn't we? So yeah. So it's pumping out stars like rabbits. So fortunately,
some of the Hubble and ESO deep field images of this galaxy, you can actually see these really reddish pink lines all throughout the spiral arms, and those are all star-forming nebula. We'd need much longer exposures with our telescopes here on the ground to actually see that sort of detail.
And a fork mount that will actually, not get iffy when there's just a bit of wind blowing on it. But it's also got quite a lot of neutral hydrogen as well. So it's normal hydrogen, not H2 or hydrogen 2, which is hydrogen which has been ionized. So that's where the an electron has been removed, or several electrons have been removed from the atom as well. So, but it's actually one. There's been eight of these, including this one in this galaxy that we've seen since 1926. So that's quite a lot for the galaxies. Like our one, you should usually see about 3 to 4 in every century, but we're coming up to a century, and we've seen 6 of them in this galaxy, and we haven't even seen one in our own galaxy since 1604. So it's very unusual for us not to maybe it's happened on the other side or so, but actually the one I found out the other day that the one that happened in 1987. That in the Large Magellanic Cloud, that actually happened on my birthday. So too bad it was 1 year too late. So what's Mel saying? What's the real bright one to the left of the screen? So I'll zoom it. So crap! It's I've still got the old. I'm having transition, and apologies. So to the left, that bright is Mel. Do you mean the bright star? I think because that will be just a foreground star in our sky. And the funny thing is that it looks really bright, but that will be probably quite dim in our. Yep. So
that one there.
Yeah, I would say that.
So that's a foreground star.
Yeah. All right. So I'll transition back to. Okay. So we'll move on. Shall we move on to the Bug Nebula this time? Let's have a look here. So.
All right. So while Matt's switching targets, I'll take over. NGC 6302 is its designation. That's the new general catalogue number. It's also called the Butterfly Nebula, which I think it's a much nicer name.
There's quite a few things called Butterfly. You got Butterfly.
It's a really complex planetary nebula. So you've seen an open cluster where stars are, just starting their lives. You've seen a supernova, which is either, the type 1s are dwarf exploding in probably the biggest thermonuclear explosions the galaxy knows. Where planetary nebula, they're the remnants of stars like our sun. So when, for example, when our sun runs out of nuclear fuel, it will puff up into a red giant, and eventually those outer layers will actually be blasted out into space, and it will form a planetary nebula. So it's actually a bit of a misnomer. These planetary nebulae aren't actually where planets form. And if a star actually had any planets after ended its life like this, it would probably be where planets died. On the other hand, so yeah, it's about 3,400 light years away from us, and the actual nebula itself is about 1.5 light years across. Sorry about the background noise.
Sorry, guys.
Move telescopes and domes. And the actual structure of the nebula itself is actually really, really complex. So, in terms of getting eyes on target through a standard telescope, you'd want a relatively large one to actually see details in quite dark skies. But photographically, we should be able to see quite a bit of detail tonight. So fingers crossed, that's we get some good exposures of it.
Sorry about that. We had the camera USB extender come out. So okay.
Technical issues. We'll be right back.
Yes. Actually, I'll find the Kent Brockman. I lost my mind one the next time. Sorry. John's a host, so I can't kill him. And I like my life.
I'm safe at home, so I'm safe for Matt's wrath here.
Yes. Okay.
So yeah. The image that's come up. I think you got the galaxy back on, haven't you?
It's coming up. Yeah. So I'm just doing the test now. So just getting it nice and clean. You can just see it there.
All right.
Let's have a look.
When we have it up, there should be a bright dot right in the center of the faint fuzziness. That's actually the white dwarf. So that's the stellar remnant that formed the butterfly nebula. And like most white dwarfs, it is in an incredibly hot stellar remnant. The actual it's actually one of the hottest stars known. So the surface temperature is estimated to be more than 250,000 degrees Celsius. So as a comparison, the surface of our sun is only 6,000 degrees Celsius. So this is incredibly hot, and this stellar remnant is still pumping out an incredible amount of energy. All right.
You'll notice one thing is that it is elongated. It's not like we did when we did the 8-burst galaxy, where it was nice and when we did the 8-burst galaxy, which looks like a circle. Okay, so it's quite elongated, and that's where it gets its plug name from. Unfortunately, we all can't have a nice Hubble telescope for us, so let's have a look. I think 30 seconds at ISO 6400. Do a nice job.
Low surface brightness, I crank it up personally.
Yeah, okay. Do 12,800 ISO? Yeah, might as well. Let's have a look. So if you weren't on last week's Saturday's stream, I used backyard Nikon to control the Nikon D810A camera. So very expensive camera that was donated to us, which we're very, very thankful for. The person was going over east and didn't think he would need it, so he donated it to the Observatory. And so it's if you've got a Canon one, they actually a Canon camera, they they started actually off with backyard EOS, which you can buy, and then so they went across and recreated EOS for the Nikon cameras. So I've got the premium one, which is about $73, but I think the trial version's free, and just the normal one is about I think about $50 Australian. So you can, it's nice way to be able to control the imaging.
Do you think we'll be able to see much color with the exposure you're doing, Matt?
Should do. Let's zoom out and there it is. Yeah, there it is. That's nice long one. You can see the two lobes coming off. That's where the star is in the middle there. So.
Yeah, I think if you look at the colors in other images which are longer exposure, you can see there's a lot of red there. That's ionized hydrogen. But if you go for a deeper exposure, you'll actually see traceries of blue mixed in with that as well. And some of that is again hydrogen, but ionized to a high energy state. So the light it releases is high frequency, so it's blue shifted. And some of that will also be oxygen, so ionized oxygen in space.
So yeah, so this is the end result of a star, again fairly similar to ours. It's a planetary nebula, and the reason they actually named these guys planetary nebulas because when through the telescopes back in the 18th century, and that they looked a little bit like planets because they were just seeing these blobs, circular blobs. Most of them are circular, but you do get the ones where the eruption has, and especially with supernovas, where the explosion can actually be not perfectly circular, and that's where they get these strange ones where you get bilobes or rectangles and that. So yeah, that's the spooky door for the so it's the star now is a white dwarf, so it's about nearly just over half the mass of our sun, and this was actually one of the first things that they tested, the Hubble Space Telescope, once it had its new wide field camera put in its final service mission in 2009. So yeah, I think Elon has always said he would like to go up and send astronauts up there to service it. So it's a shame they couldn't bring it down. So, but it's one of the hottest stars that they've actually found. It's over 250,000 degrees Celsius. That's you wouldn't want to roast a leg of lamb or beef or
char with an light,
yeah. It's small. Considering that we've taken this, it's about 1.5 light years across, and we're seeing it as it was. It's 3,000, nearly 3,400 light years away from us. So it's a decent image to be able to see. So, and it's in Scorpius, so we're looking towards the center of our own galaxy as well. So yeah.
So in the coming months, once as we're coming into winter, looking to the Milky Way that you'll see in the sky, that's actually looking towards the center of our own galaxy. So there's a lot of interesting objects that'll be coming up in the next couple of months in the sky. Lots of nebula, lots of clusters.
Yeah, we've got Omega, we've got Triffids, we've also got Lagoon as well. All the choices. And anyway, we still have stuff like the Tarantula Nebula as well, which you can show.
I think that'd be earlier in the night now because it's in the west at the moment.
Yeah, it's starting to go down, but yeah, you should still. It's a at least we've got the city to the west. We still got good skies to the south and east and north as well.
Mm.
Before we go, this is actually this was added to the new general catalogue in 1888. So, and it's been properly, it's been really studied and described by Edward Bernard in 1907. So there's still quite, they were still finding a lot of objects back in the day with your normal telescopes as well. So, all right, so we'll go to our final object for the night. So Centaurus A galaxy. So let's go. Let's get the. So you want to take over and tell us a little bit about the Centaurus A? This is a pretty cool galaxy.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna spoil the image, but it's a really cool edge-on galaxy. So it's there's a lot of people, a lot of amateur astrophotographers use it as a target because it's quite bright. There's a lot of detail and there's a lot of interesting stuff around it as well. So if you're lucky enough to have your own astrophotography set up, it's one of the big targets that almost every astrophotographer, amateur or not, tends to have a picture of. So it's a little bit. It's not quite as wide as our own galaxy, so it's about 97,000 light years across, so a little bit smaller than ours. And it's about 13 million light years away from us. Similar age, about 13 billion years old. And it's in Centaurus. So if you know where that constellation is, you can find it relatively easily with a decent telescope. And hence its name, Centaurus A. It's the fifth brightest galaxy in our sky, and it's also really bright in other wavelengths, specifically X-rays and radio waves. So using some space telescopes, I think the Chandra X-ray telescope and a few ground-based radio telescopes, they've been able to find a lot of really interesting features in the galaxy that actually aren't visible to the naked eye. So if you just Google image search, there's actually quite a few really cool composite pictures where they've stacked on X-rays, radio telescope observations, and visible light all in the same image, so you can see what structures there are in the galaxy and maybe get an idea of how it's got its characteristic shape. So that the central supermassive black hole, that's the source of these two big long radio jets, and they're firing off perpendicular to the long axis of the galaxy.
So you can see just here that this will be where the jets will be coming off.
Yeah, and these are again everything in space is big numbers. So the innermost parts of the jet closest to the axis that they're shooting off on, the actual material there is moving away from the galaxy at about half the speed of light. So that's about 150,000 kilometers per second. So it's moving at a decent clip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've just started to get some wind, so that's why the image is.
Yeah.
You've got one job to
do. The actual galaxy was discovered at Parramatta Observatory in New South Wales by the Scottish astronomer James Dunlop, and he did that in 1826.
Okay.
So a lot of these faint fuzzies were discovered relatively recently because good telescopes are actually they're a rather recent invention. So
here we're going.
It's also like the galaxy we looked at earlier tonight. It's a starburst galaxy, so it's undergoing a period of intense star formation. So there's a lot of newborn stars, a lot of new nebula being formed.
It's had a collision.
Yeah,
it had a hit on.
Yeah, had a bit of interstellar prank.
Yeah. Call up the RAC.
Yeah. And again, certainly in Hubble images and long exposure, even with amateur telescopes, to be honest, you can actually see a lot of really bright blue stars in the central disk and some little pink regions of nebula. So that's where all that active star formation is happening. And those really bright blue stars are the hot and newborn ones.
Here it comes.
So
Here it comes.
even if you've got a backyard setup, it's very possible to actually get really good images of this particular galaxy.
There he is. So you get. Oh, yeah. I'll take another photo in the meantime, but you can kind of see. It's just you can just see. The great thing about this telescope is the tube is fantastic, but the fork mount is just cheaped out on it a bit. But yeah, you can see the nice dark dust lane here. It's sometimes called the hamburger galaxy because you can see the buns on the halo, and then the patties in the middle here as well. So
making me hungry. I've just had dinner, Matt.
Burgers.
Yeah. So in that dust lane, that's the edge of the galaxy. So we're viewing this elliptical edge on. So that's where most of the mass is actually concentrated, and that's where most of the actual star formation is happening, in that big dust lane, and just either side of it. The halo that you see around it, that kind of bright fuzziness, those are stars in the central galactic bulge, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think they're actually significantly older than most of the stars that we can see now, because a lot of them are newly formed due to that collision that happened.
So slightly better. Yeah, we've got it is another gust. It is actually one of the loudest radio galaxies as well. It's I think the guys at the Murchison Widefield Rail, ICRA, they say it's the loudest thing apart from the sun in our night sky. So when you see it when you see the universe, or a shot of the night sky with radio, light wave, it is actually quite impressive. It's funny, like it's one of those things where it's a little bit like an iceberg. We're only just, with our visible light, we're only just seeing the tip of the iceberg. Once you move into like radio, this thing is absolutely enormous, and the jets coming off it are coming off the black hole, because the black hole is feeding at the moment. So come on, give us a.
Yeah. So on the image, if you could see those radio jets, they'd be shooting out to the left and right of that vertical bar.
Yeah. I'll find where is it? Centaurus A. I'll find you a nice image of that. Google. So you can see here, this is another window capture actually. You just go properties, Chrome, Centaurus A. Okay, so turn it on, transition. So this is it in multiple. This is in multiple spectra. So you've got visible light that's making up the bar, and then they add the radio in, so you can actually see material that is actually escaping the black hole here, and it's being fired at near. I think they get fired off about 23% of the speed of light.
About half the speed of light. So
yeah. I know. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is a half the speed, because I think 23% of the speed of light is the core of a star collapsing, and then we're also looking at X-rays. So we're seeing light with what we see in the nights with our own eyes. We're seeing light that we actually listen to so we can get we can listen to our favorite radio stations, and we've also got X-ray light here, which is what we can see when we have with the same light we have used to look at broken bones and all that kind of stuff. I'll see if they've got the gleam image from image ICRA. This was shown a couple of years ago at Astrofest. Oh yes, here it is. So this is taken by John Goldsmith, who's an astronomer, a very good astrophotographer. And let's have a look. So this object right here, that is Centaurus A. that is radio data from. This is the Milky Way. That could possibly be the Large Magellanic Cloud there, and this is a Murchison Wide Field Array tile. So the little metal grates here are essentially the radio dish, and then these little spiderlings here, they're actually going to go. They look like Christmas trees now. They're not going to use this type of tile, but these spiderlings, these are the receivers on top, so they can actually move the tile, or get data from different parts of the night sky by delaying the info from some of these tiles to the receiver here, and then so there's a whole field of these guys out in Murchison, and so this is one of the precursors to the square kilometre array, which they're about to build next year. So they've got Murchison Wide Field Array and ASCAP, which is the Australian square kilometre array pathfinder. So so it's pretty interesting what's happening in the world, especially in West Australia with astronomy. So it's a great time to be alive. All right, so I think we'll finish that up for tonight. Hopefully you guys really enjoyed tonight, and thank you very much, Kyle, for joining me on tonight. It was looking a bit iffy in the weather report, so it's great that we're able to be able to get another clear night. So that's 2 clear nights in a row. So I will be actually going out to one of our volunteers' place next weekend at Yundigan. So hopefully we can actually we'll be under dark skies, and we'll get some really cool images out in Yundigan as well. So I can just see Cranky Ken, our facilities coordinator, typing something. So this is going to be good. I don't know. It's Ken. I did tell you about this, so you can't. So hopefully we'll be able to do that out there. Thanks. Thank you, John, for helping me with the controlling the octagonal dome tonight, the beast that it is. And guys, if you want to follow us on Facebook and Twitter, links are down below. And also, if we've got the Patreon link down there. If you want to support the Observatory, you'll get some cool stuff in return, and we really appreciate the support as well. So, will we be? Lisa D said, "Will we be doing another one?" Yes, if you go actually into our channel, we've done about, I think this is week 7 of these guys. It seems so long ago since since this lockdown started. It's just I haven't had a chance to to add in the new one. So what I'll be doing tomorrow is putting up the next lot, and I'll make sure to also put it in the Facebook events as well, so people can get reminders. But yes, thanks very much, guys, and please share this with your friends and family so we can get more people. We can get more people in the chat as well, and we'll, so again, I think we've had over this weekend that there was this week there was an announcement that they are starting to reduce the lockdowns. It looks like we'll be able to open in phase 3, so our board's discussing that at the moment. So hopefully, if everything goes well, mid June we'll be able to start to reopen. And if that is the case, what we'll do is we'll move these live streams to maybe midweek, and we'll probably do one or probably two. We'll start off to see how my life is going at that point. And
see how much help you can get as well.
yeah, and we'll do those during the week. All right, guys, thank you very much for joining us tonight. I hope you've had a fantastic time, and we'll see